Meza, Andrew choosing to bring the baby Blacephalon, as it's known, the Unbroken Bonds Blacephalon welder deck to the fray. Whereas we're seeing on Pablo's side, we're seeing, again, the traditional Pikachu and Zekrom tag team build.
Yeah, the list looks actually very similar to Natalia's, with a few different changes in some of the tech cards, but very streamlined, straightforward for Pablo here. And honestly, for Andrew, I think he's playing one of your favorite decks.
Yeah, I do love the Blacephalon deck, and I think the Pikachu and Zekrom matchup is one of the reasons to play it. We can go ahead and take a look at some of Andrew's accomplishments here. Going to contextualize who he is for all of you viewers out there. He won a regional championships in 2015. He also has a North American International top 8 in 2017. I also happen to know he has a heartbreaking ninth place at the World Championship in 2015. But even more than that, I think for a lot of people, right now, Andrew Mahone is just a huge content creator. He makes YouTube videos. He streams almost every day. He does a lot with charity. He is just kind of the king of that in the Pokemon trading card game right now. I think that's what a lot of people are going to know him for. He had a huge finish at the regionals earlier this season. Unfortunately, that regional this season got cut short, of course, but he's kind of looking to keep that momentum going here through the Invitational.
Yeah, meanwhile, on the other side of the table, Pablo Meza is no slouch himself. One of the best content creators himself out there right now. Has a world's top 4 in 2005. That's pretty long ago. That's 15 years ago. And then
before most viewers started watching, for sure.
Yeah, top 8 at Worlds in 2017. So he's able to keep that consistency going.
Pablo definitely playing a bunch of regionals is a big thing now. It just seems like both of these guys, one of the things I really respect about them is just that they have dedicated so much of their lives to Pokemon, both playing the TCG, competing in tournaments, and content creation. Looks like we can get right back down to the match here. Two great players to span a very long time in this game, two awesome content creators doing a lot for the community, a lot for the game, and two players who are really trying to prove something, two players whose seasons got cut short. Now they're saying, all right, I really want to earn this spot in the finals.
Yeah, and then we're seeing from Mahone's side of the field right now, it looks like he will not be choosing who gets to go first.
It looks like we're going to see Pablo going first here. Mahone opening up with a Jirachi start. Pretty standard looking hand here for the Blacephalon deck. We see a lot of the Blacephalon deck just kind of do the same thing over and over here. Marshadow start, not exactly what Pablo wanted to see.
Yeah, a little bit better than maybe starting that Dedenne GX, having 2 of them in his hand. Opts to discard one of them with Quick Ball. And seeing his hand right now, it's really just Dedenne change fodder.
Yeah, this is the type of hand that you draw in real life, and you see the Dedenne first, and you go, no, it's my worst starter. Please give me something else. And you hit the other Marshadow, and you're like, all right, well, I guess that's fine. We do see that Quick Ball find the Pikachu and Zekrom. Pablo going to go ahead and just whittle down his hand here, anticipating a Dedenne change.
Yeah, and the second Quick Ball, the second Quick Ball actually able to find that Tapu Koko Prism Star right away. Just, again, one of these combo pieces that you need to get an early full blitz off.
And that is going to be the name of the game for him. We do see that Tapu Koko Prism Star. There's the attachment on the bench to Pikachu and Zekrom. And now I did a change, 6 fresh cards.
You hate to see it. He attached the Lightning before the Dedenne change because you didn't want to risk not drawing one, but ends up drawing one on the last card of that 6. Not too big of a deal, but it's always just like, oh man, I wish I would have just discarded the second one.
And so we're going to see Andrew Mahone's turn here. The nice thing about Pablo starting with that Marshadow is that he's in it's very likely that he can get a Pokemon knocked out this turn. Welder and Blacephalon could do really crazy things. And so if it's gonna get something knocked out, he wants it to be that one prizer, even if it is a easier route to victory or an easier knockout for Andrew Mahone. We see that Fiery Flint getting 4 fire energy out of the deck. Mahone just kind of reviewing what's in his deck, what's in his prizes.
Yeah, and the thing about this Blacephalon deck too is these early turns, you're really trying to thin your deck out of all these fire energy that you play. Fiery Flint's probably the best card to help you with that. As you see now, he has 6 in hand, even has that Fire Crystal, but he wants to hit a Welder off this Stellar Wish. That is the number 1 card. So if you try to thin your deck out of all these fire energies, it's the best possible route. But unfortunately, it looks like just a switch.
Yeah, he does have the quick ball. Looks like you saw him consider playing the quick ball just to thin his deck a little bit before the Stellar Wish, but I think this is kind of the exact reason that he didn't, is just he wants to make sure that he's not stuck without, he wants to make sure that he has maximum information before playing the quick ball, and he can easily get another Jirachi here. Scoop up net and switch means he can have another look, although he does need a lot more here. And this is a classic early turn play from the Blacephalon decks.
Intrepid Sword is an insane ability, so it's kind of just okay, if I don't hit Welder or anything that actually gets me to keep going on this turn, I'll just draw 3 cards for free at the end of the turn.
Yeah, Zacian V was an absolutely huge for this deck, and you see that often in the first turn going first where you can attack, but even now it's just fine as well. We see the Ultra Space finds the Blacephalon, and now he just gets to draw 3 free cards, gets the Heat Factory and the Welder.
And look at those 3 cards that Andrew drew. Welder and it was just pretty insane. Another Fire
Welder,
Crystal.
Heat Factory, and the Fire Crystal. Unfortunately, we didn't get to showcase a kind of big explosive Blacephalon turn, but I think next turn we're going to see the full power of that, unless, of course, this Blacephalon gets knocked out. We do see Dance of the Ancients. There's the boss's order.
All right, this
target
is
down
exactly
that Blacephalon.
What Pablo needs to do. Blacephalon is technically favored in this matchup just because it's a 1 prize attacker being able to take down these 3 prize tag team GX Pokemon.
Yeah, definitely. Blacephalon is favored in this matchup. I think this is one of the reasons that Blacephalon has been doing so well in online tournaments and why a lot of players chose to bring it to the Invitational today. But because of the explosiveness of Pikarom, this is what can happen. It's not often that you get a deck that can do a 3 energy attack on the second turn and play a boss's order. And removing the Ultra Space was big there. Of course, we knew that Andrew had the Heat Factory backup.
Yeah, well, the Heat Factory drew into a Blacephalon, and that allows Welder to get fire energy to attach to it. And with the double Fire Crystal in hand, we could see just a knockout this turn from Andrew taking 3 prizes.
Yep, I think this is something that a lot of the people that I think when you first look at Blacephalon, you say, well, this is, it just requires so much energy. I mean, it costs 3. He's going to have to discard 5 here to knock out the Pikarom, but this is, almost trivial when you have Welder and you have so many energy in your deck along with the combination of Fiery Flint and Fire Crystal. We see another Welder off of the Stellar Wish, and Andrew has the knockout this turn.
The thing that I love a lot about Andrew's deck compared to even Michael Pramwat's from earlier on is he plays the full 4 energy retrieval along with the full 4 Fire Crystal and 4 Fiery Flint. So it's just redundancy on redundancy of I'm going to get these energies in play. So as long as I find my Welders, I'll be able to knock you out.
Yeah, we definitely are seeing Andrew Mahone play a much more kind of traditional version of the Blacephalon deck. This is, heavily based on scoop up nets, things like that, just trying to constantly do the same thing over and over. As you see, it just led to a 3 prize knockout for Andrew Mahone. Whereas Michael Pramwat's deck, I think was actually first innovated by Kyle Sugovich as much more of a, we're going to play Beast Energy, we're going to play some more techs, we're not going to go, we're not going to play we're not going to play any scoop up nets, we're just not going to go deep on anything here.
Yeah, and the reset stamp for Pablo here is pretty good to combat that big knockout that Andrew just took.
Yeah, that's actually very big. That is one of the ways that these Blacephalon decks can end up losing is, as you'll see in this matchup, it's going to be a constant rebuilding phase, right? He's going to get his Blacephalon knocked out constantly, and if you can limit your opponent's hand with something like Reset Stamp, it's very hard for them to be able to rebuild. That being said, Andrew does have one of the best cards for rebuilding in that Oricorio GX. It's difficult because he already has a bunch of 2 prize attackers on the board, which is not where you want to be. But look at that. We have Welder back in hand. We have Crystal. We have Retrieval again.
Yeah, he just needs to find another Retrieval, and that's enough energy to take a knockout here. with the other Blacephalon in the deck. And that's one thing I really like about the way Andrew has built his deck too. He plays basically one of every support Pokemon that you can find. Has that Zacian V, has that Workorio GX, has the Mewtwo with Mine Report to put a Welder back on top of the deck. He actually just draws it there. It's really just firing on all cylinders.
Yep, so there's the Fire Crystal, there's the Energy Retrieval.
Yeah, still needs one more energy.
One more.
And so this is nice.
Go. Yeah. Oh, there it is. There's the switch. He finds the crystal.
Your whole deck is basically cards that say get 2 or more energy. So having to discard 1 to draw 3, and then you still have the out of Stellar Wish, it gives you a lot more chances to actually find it, which we see here he did. Actually does the full Monty, and that's game 1, 350 damage.
That game really showed you the power of the Blacephalon deck, right? Pablo got an early turn knockout. Andrew got reset stamped, and he was still able to respond. You just have so much redundancy in your deck, and that was even after using 2 Fiery Flints and a Fire Crystal on the first turn. Just, as somebody who's played a lot of Blacephalon, when you play Blacephalon, you have to hope to get lucky. You have to hope to high roll, and Andrew is definitely doing that here.
Oh yeah, as long as you hit your welders, you should be fine. Now, game 2
it's just all about finding that welder.
I actually think Pablo started a Dedenne GX over the Pikachu and Zekrom. Yeah, well, having the Pikachu and Zekrom in hand.
Yeah, he's just kind of not exposing anything there. We see the classic Jirachi start from Andrew Mahone. He does have the option to get a welder. Just goes ahead, gets a switch here.
Yeah, this is the awkward side of Blacephalon here. The hand where you only have 1 fire energy. This deck works best when you just basically have all of them in your hand. You can do whatever you want. All your cards work with those. But right now, welder for 1 energy isn't really what you want to see. So we might just see an Intrepid Sword to end the turn here and nothing else.
Yeah, that's typically that's exactly what this deck wants in the early turns, is just, I'm going to put the Zacian, I'm an Intrepid Sword, and I'm going to let you kind of figure the rest out. I can build up in 1 turn. Andrew is saying, I have welders, I have flints, things like that. Back on Pablo's side, we do see he started with the Dedenne. We have the Pikachu and Zekrom on the bench. Energy immediately attached, and we're seeing a very similar kind of line of play as last game with the Quick Ball for the Tapu Koko Prism Star.
Yeah, the Speed Lightning drawing 2 cards for Pablo here doesn't really see too many good options. The Quick Ball does allow him to search for that Tapu Koko Prism, and we're going to see a Professor's Research here, but he's really hoping to find a way out of the active and then enough to actually attack. And wow, looks like he might actually have found it by drawing that Thunder Mountain Prism.
Yep, there's Thunder Mountain. We're seeing the Dance of the Ancients, 1 energy, but that's fine. We're seeing the big switch here, dropping the other Pikachu and Zekrom, of course, so we can full blitz onto it. And that's getting rid of the Jirachi. We saw a very similar play last game for Pablo, except for it was actually way better for him here because it's a Jirachi getting knocked out.
Yeah,
he's going to go ahead and load that Pikachu and Zekrom up.
Blacephalon is a deck that really relies on Stellar Wish to find those specific cards like Welder or like that last Fire Crystal you need. And while Andrew's hand is stacked right here, he still only has access to... Well, no, I guess he has that Fiery Flint now. That's pretty big.
Yeah, and this is something you'll see a lot from these decks, is that you are often going to be... Even though you have access to all of these very explosive cards like Fiery Flint and Crystal to get back the Fire Energy, you want to make sure that you're doing everything right. So what you choose to discard, the order that you choose to do things in, is really important, because you are trying to maximize, okay, if I don't find 5 Fire Energy this turn to get the knockout, I've done nothing. I really need to find exactly 5. And how can the puzzle is constantly, how can I do that in the most efficient way possible?
Well, not even 5. You need 8 total, 3 on the Blacephalon, and then 5 in your hand.
Sure. Just generally, right? Like, you need to hit the exact numbers. If you, it doesn't really help to do less than a big knockout.
Yeah, but this is what we might see here. Andrew needed something like another Fiery Flint to keep the chain going, but drew all of the retrieval cards, not having access to the energy in his deck. So only having 3 total if he chooses to attach the third one to the Blacephalon. And this might just be a turn taken off yet again.
And you can see the dangerous part here is he does have that Pablo does have that boss's order in hand. Of course, Andrew doesn't know that, but that could lead to the Blacephalon getting knocked out. It would really be interesting to see what what Andrew decides to do here. Does play the retrieval. He has 4 energy in hand. He can commit the third to the bench Blacephalon.
Yeah, so the Great Catcher is basically free because you could discard 2 fire and then just get him back with retrieval. Kind of brings up that Dedenne GX, and hopefully Pablo doesn't have a good turn. But again, this is not what you want to see from Andrew here. Although he does get a pretty good few cards off the Intrepid Sword in Welder.
It's just being already down a prize, having a lone Blacephalon exposed, a 2-prizer in the active position, not where Andrew wants to be. I think oftentimes it's fine in the mid game to reset with an Intrepid Sword if you're up on prizes, but not when you're already down. And
yeah, so we could actually see a big turn here because Pablo does play a tag switch. If he actually has a tag switch in the deck with this Volkner, we could see a tag bolt and actually take the knockout here. And it looks like he does have that. Tag switch is going to allow Pikachu and Zekrom GX to use tag bolt for the 230 thanks to this electro power in his hand, and then the 170 on the bench with Cephalon, and Pablo's going to take game 2.
There we go. That's the explosiveness of Pikachu and Zekrom GX. We spent a lot of that game, a lot of this match talking about the explosiveness of Blacephalon, and those are the kind of turns we didn't see Natalia have, but those are the kind of turns Pablo has with the tag switch. The big 3-prize, clear your board, take the game, and now we're headed into game 3. Andrew is tied up in a matchup that is supposed to be favorable for him. Pablo had a big turn. Andrew did not get what he needed, and this is proving that this matchup can go any way.
Yeah, and Pablo had quite a few outs left there at the end of the game with that Thunder Mountain Prism in play. Energy switches were also an out, so it's really showing that Pablo just had that sealed up with that Dedenne GX.
Yeah, and it also really shows the kind of what can happen to the Blacephalon players, where you need to draw your cards in a specific order. When you draw your welders, when you have a bunch of fire energy, things are fine. But there's definitely hands, you have to just accept sometimes. Well, this hand didn't really get me anywhere. I'm probably losing this game. But hey, the last few games I played have been totally free wins. So it's fine on the balance.
Yeah, we actually saw that happen there where Andrew drew a Jirachi off the Intrepid Sword and a Dedenne GX, but just couldn't play him down, and it spelled doom. Now, it was a pretty good turn 1 for Andrew, having played the Fiery Flint, 2 Jirachis in play, and then getting an attachment, having the Welder for next turn. It's going to put a lot of pressure on Pablo here.
Going into Pablo's turn, Bolton V is the starter for him. He has a bunch of options here. Speed, Lightning, Energy, considering playing that, taking a moment to think about it more. Of course, the Volkner as well may come down first. Electromagnetic Radar is the choice.
Electromagnetic Radar is kind of one of the cards that has fallen off in a lot of the popularity just because as more and more Pokemon V cards come out, you're losing a lot of the actual utility that Electromagnetic Radar has with the GXs. But as long as you're playing a combination of Dedenne GX, Zeraora GX, and Pikachu and Zekrom GX, it's always going to be really good.
Yep, and there's the Radar for the Pikachu and Zekrom GX and Dedenne. Pablo taking some time to look through his deck. One of the most powerful Pokemon tag teams, Pikachu and Zekrom GX, just standing the test of time. Good basically no matter what.
And wow, we actually see Pablo attaching to the bench Pikachu and Zekrom and then opting to discard the 3 energy in his hand with the Dene change and not drawing into any really useful cards here, although Tapu Koko Prism could give him an attack off.
Looks like the other Bolton's going to fall to the quick ball here. Another Pikachu and Zekrom GX. added to the hand. We might see the early Dance of the Ancients, as we've seen every game out of Pablo so far, attaching one to each of the bench tag team Pokemon.
Yeah, but the way his hand is here, he's going to have to energy switch and electrify this turn. And that's going to lead to possibly 2 easy prizes for Andrew next turn.
Yeah, it's Pablo just kind of being forced to build up what's on his bench, but leave this Bolton very exposed. One thing that can happen too in this matchup is Blacephalon GX can change a lot of things where you might be saying, okay, well, Andrew takes the Bolton knockout, then he can take a tag team knockout, then he has to take a big knockout, but he actually doesn't. He can just burst GX for the last prize. Just a really useful GX attack with the rhythm of this game.
Yeah, funny enough, this Blacephalon deck is really a toolbox of attackers. You have that Blacephalon GX, but you also have Cramorant V to really kind of pick apart some of the bench Pokemon as well.
Yeah, also a very, very common play pattern. You see that the Dene GX on the bench for Pablo is a perfect Cramorant V target.
Yeah, unfortunately, just the one thing is you don't want to give up so many 2-prize attackers. So mostly throughout the game, you just settle on which one of the techs you want to use for the game.
Yeah, really going to be dependent, especially in this matchup where there's bench damage happening. When most games are forced to bench the Zacian, and most games you really need the Oricorio in the mid game to redraw. So you don't have a whole lot of wiggle room there.
Well, there is a Fiery Flint getting more fire into Andrew's hand. It just turns on his hand thanks to those retrievals. And there's the Mew, something that he really wishes he had last game. Finally makes it.
Yeah, I think a lot of players has not been playing the Mew. I think since the rise of Pikarom a few weeks ago, Mew is slotted right back in, so good and so necessary against the Pikachu and Zekrom decks. It would have changed last game entirely.
All right, well, here is the Fireball Circus. Takes the knockout, having to discard 4 energy. Really relying on the prizes to draw him out of this hand, though. That Dedenne GX will be really big.
But here's, again, the Speed Lightning draws 2 supporters for Pablo, really showing the power of that card. And now Pablo has to kind of decide, okay, I can take knockouts here. It's pretty easy. What do I need to build to? It's going to go ahead and play the Professor's Research, draw a fresh hand of 7 cards.
Yeah, but again, really just looking for maybe some more attackers to get these energies charged up to. That Mew coming down really turns off Tag Bolt to its max. You never really want to use it when you're just taking the active knockout, especially since you're doing that anyway with Full Blitz. So we could even see something like that, Alolan Raichu and Raichu GX come down.
Looks like that is the option here. There's the knockout. Unfortunately, trading 1 prize for 2 is Pablo. But
yeah,
now
this
again,
is where Andrew's deck comes in handy. This is what it's supposed to do, trading 1 prize for 2, for 3.
Yeah, exactly. It's rare in the Pokemon trading card game that we can have decks that are both these single prize attackers and can get 1-hit KOs, right? A lot of the time we're used to having, okay, I'm a single prize attacker, but I usually have to set up attack twice to get the knockout here. So I'm still trading favorably, probably based on resources, but this deck just says, no, I only cost 1 prize. I can knock out anything, good luck.
Yeah, and looking here, not too bad of a Dedede change from Andrew. Has a Welder and 1 Fire Energy as well as a Blacephalon to attach to it. Could be pretty good to get stuff going, but man, having to stare down all these tag team GX Pokemon with energy attached to them, you're going to really need to get a knockout soon.
Quick Ball comes down off of the Stellar Wish that Zacian has worn out its welcome. Is it Oricorio GX? Doing a good Zacian impression, just not ending your turn.
Yeah, pretty good here. Again, only being able to use it after your opponent takes a knockout, but when you're this single prize deck, your Pokemon are almost always getting knocked out. All right, has the Fire Crystal off that, but still needs a little bit more help. Will dig again with another Stellar Wish. Gets the energy retrieval, but I think the Flint is needed.
Yeah, I think energy retrieval
would be 1 energy short. It just depends how many energies left in the deck. I think there's 11, so there's not enough left. And scoop up net, we might see another Jirachi play, maybe. Man,
yeah, it's awkward because it doesn't like the scoop up net, is what he takes here, and it is right. He needs to reset this Jirachi, but he just needs to find it just gives him one more look at the crystal. I think is mainly what he's looking for here off the Jirachi to be able to attach and get the knockout.
You would still have to use your switch too, so that's really just burning resources you don't have.
Yeah, you're still just going through a bunch of your resources, but again, this deck doesn't really function in such a way that Andrew wants to do a bunch of damage but not get a knockout. He really relies on trading in such a way that he can find the knockout. Honestly, if you can find the knockout here, Blacephalon GX can be huge. It looks like he's considering just passing here. He's saying, okay, I've already built up enough. I don't want to take the risk of not being able to find what I have.
This is the awkward part though, because now Pablo has a turn to maybe even pull ahead a little bit. That Great Catcher in hand, as well as comboed with a reset stamp thanks to this Volkner, could put in a lot of work, maybe even taking out that Oricorio GX on the bench.
And that reset stamp, this is a classic way that Blacephalon can lose. You're going to get stamped, and you're going to get your Oricorio knocked out. So you have few cards in hand and no draw power coming back, and your prize exchange is worse. So the rest of this game is gonna be really dependent on the cards that Andrew gets off of this reset stamp, and Pablo even gets the 6 card that I changed to boot.
Yeah, it's unfortunate here that Electro Power was not found off this Dede change, because it would have allowed something like that Alolan Raichu and Raichu to take the knockout, or even just taking the knockout with Full Blitz and saving your GX attack. But it looks like a Lightning Ride might also be the option here. But again, you don't really want to switch the Alolan Raichu and Raichu out of the active spot. It's probably the thing that could take the most amount of pain from Blacephalon, having 260 HP.
Yep, and that's exactly what's going to happen here. We do see the tag switch. There's the Raichu, Alolan Raichu, a little bit harder to knock out. And now Andrew is in a position that Blacephalon players hate again.
Oh, man. You have to switch. You're forced to switch with Lightning Ride.
Oh, right. He's going to have to... I think... I don't know what's right here. It's going to come down to what Pablo feels gives him the best chance of winning here. The tag team Pokemon are harder to knock out.
Right after a reset stamp, granted, Dedenne still needs 4 energy to take the knockout, but it'll put him down to 2, and that means Blacephalon GX is not an auto win next turn.
Yeah, absolutely. Just kind of forcing the 2 prizer, forcing Mahone to take the knockout here and then have it once again is very big. Back on Andrew Mahone's side, we see that he does have the welder. He does have the Great Catcher as well, but doesn't have, again, any way to kind of get back the energy quite yet.
Yeah, the hand's not too shabby, though. Having access to 2 Jirachis and the scoop up net means he's going to get a lot of looks off the top of his deck for cards like Fire Crystal and Energy Retrieval. Has 6 fire energy in the discard with the 4 in play in hand. That means he's only going to have access to 3 left in the deck.
Yep, and here's just the welder to basically just draw cards play. A bunch of Jirachis here.
Retrieval. The Energy Retrieval is big. That means he only needs 4 more energy to actually take the knockout on something like that Alolan Raichu and Raichu GX.
And you see the quick ball looks at the Cramorant for a bit, decides to take the Blacephalon GX. We're going to see a Stellar Wish.
This is awkward. So the switch could probably give you another Stellar Wish easily, or maybe even just switch into the Blacephalon later. But something like Fiery Flint's really risky because we don't know if there's any fire energies in Andrew's prizes, really. So it'll be interesting to see if the full 3 are left in the deck. Oh, there's a Fire Crystal.
There's the Crystal. Perfect. Okay, right, now
he'll be able to take the knockout on the active Dedenne GX, but he needs 1 more energy to actually take a 3 prize knockout and set up game for next turn.
It's going to be able to recover 5 energy
he
here.
does have it. Yeah.
Yeah,
He could just bring up the
have
Pikachu and Zekrom, take the knockout, and the next turn all he needs is 1 more energy, and then burst GX for the game.
Saying goodbye to these Jirachis. Do not need them. We're going to go ahead and bring up that loaded up Blacephalon. Here's the switch.
All right, this is the point that Andrew has been hoping for. Fireball Circus discards the entire hand and only needs 1 fire energy and the Blacephalon GX to stay on the board to take the game next turn and the match.
That's actually a really interesting decision, I think, on Andrew's side is, do I want to play this Blacephalon and potentially get it knocked out? Or do I want to leave it in my hand and potentially get it reset stamped away? Because it is just a way where you can go Blacephalon energy, knockout. But, if you can, when you have the fully built up Blacephalon, but your opponent knows that you've spent a lot of resources to get back energy, sometimes having the little Blacephalon without a bunch of cards in hand is just not enough. But we are getting down to the pivotal point in this game. Just 1 prize left for Andrew Mahone.
Yeah. This is pretty crazy. Pablo is going to need a reset stamp here just to keep him in the game. We saw that Andrew Mahone got a Fire Crystal and a Switch off the prizes. So, yeah, here's the reset stamp down to 1. And
all right,
Pablo
this is huge.
Need to pull some stuff off.
So reset stamp. Pablo's doing everything he can here. Here's the knockout. It'll just take an energy here for...
Yeah, there's so many hits that Andrew can have.
And he needs it this turn, right?
Retrieval, yeah, needs it this turn.
We see the 2 bosses orders.
Ooh, Mind Report. That is not what you want to do. It would put Welder back on top of the deck, but no fire energy for that Welder. And here we go. Oh,
there's the flint, but he doesn't have the energy left, right?
I believe it's in the deck, but he would have to discard his entire hand, and that means he would not have the way to retreat the Jirachi.
Wow,
this is the exact 5 cards that he needed to see for Pablo to stay in the game.
Right, this is so awkward for Andrew here. It looks like he's going to take the switch. I mean, he doesn't know that Pablo has the boss's order, but wow, this is not what you want to see. It's not even, I mean, he can do a switch scoop up net sort of thing, but that doesn't even really get him anywhere.
Yeah, 10 fire in the discard. That means there's 3 left in the deck, but then there's all of those retrieval effects. We're going to see the scoop up. Are we going to see him switch the Jirachi and Stellar Wish yet again?
So we're going to see the scoop up. He's going to play the Jirachi. Oh, considering not even playing the Jirachi.
Yeah, this is
Andrew. Very, very tense moment in what's supposed to be a good matchup for Andrew Mahone.
Yeah, and there we see he's going to go for it again. Stellar Wish, and there's the energy retrieval as well as the switch and Fiery Flint again.
Yeah, but he has no way to switch, right? This is just wow, this is such an awkward
so now it's going to put pressure on Pablo here. Oh, opts for the switch again. So do we see just a switch to Blacephalon? Wow, this is putting it all on the line here. He's saying, I don't think you have an Electro Power.
Yeah. I don't think you can do it, Pablo. This was my last turn. There's the switch. There's the boss's order.
Oh, yeah, and this will be game here. Pablo taking it down with the Tandem Shock. Thanks to that boss's orders, the Dedenne GX just on the board, just sitting there waiting to be knocked out for him.
We saw Andrew knew exactly what was going on too. As soon as the boss's orders hit, we saw the well played on Andrew's side of the screen. You never want to lose to a good matchup like that. Pikarom is one of the primary reasons you even play the Blacephalon deck, but that just goes to show you why we had a lot of players choose to play Pikarom here, right? It is so good even versus the bad matchup. It just has such explosiveness, has so many options, and wow, that was just a fantastic play. Unfortunately, it's going to knock Andrew down to the losers bracket, but Pablo will be moving on. let's go ahead and bring back Jose Rojano and Kyle Sablehouse as they rejoin Gats to go over some of the other matches from our other side of the bracket.
Thank you, Kenny. And wow, we have just seen the bottom two matches of the first round bracket. We've seen how Natalia and Pablo were both able to advance, playing that Pikachu and Zekrom Tag Team GX deck, and moving both Rahul and Andrew Mahone to the bottom, to the actual losers bracket, putting them in the position, the unenviable position of having their backs against the wall. One more loss, and they are eliminated. Kyle, could you give us a little bit of a rundown as to how that match went between Rahul Reddy and Andrew Mahone?
Definitely, yeah. You just saw that Andrew Mahone took that quick match loss there to Pablo in what should have been a good matchup. Now he's got another matchup in Rahul playing that Bolton deck, and we see right away Rahul off to a fantastic start after just a bursting burn there. You see the turn to Pikachu and Zekrom, Electro Power full blitz knockout on the Blacephalon GX, getting to accelerate these energies, and on the other hand, you just see Andrew Mahone sitting there with a 4-card hand to Blacephalon, really has nothing going on. And right after that, after having nothing going on there, Rahul with the double knockout tag team, Tag Bolt GX to clean up. That's right. Don't see a Mew there this time. So there's a big knockout. Moving on into the second game, and maybe the tide's about to shift here. You see that Rahul really doesn't have much going on over on his side, actually starting the only Pokemon with a Poke Power in his an ability. So he can't even use his greens that his deck is built to use. And we see immediately that Andrew gets off to this huge start, gets everything going for himself, has the welder there for the Blacephalon, and it looks like he's about to clean this game up right now, taking the knockout on the lone Tapu Koko. So in a matter of like 8 minutes, we're already knocked out and moving into game 3 in this quick match here. Both players' tournaments are on the line. We'll see who gets to move into this last game here. Rahul has 3 cards in hand, really has nothing going for him here. Has the Bolton V, just going to go ahead and charge some energies onto his Pikachu and Zekrom. And over on the other side, Andrew has everything, 6 fire energies for the huge Fireball Circus knockout. Going to go ahead and use 5 of those, take a huge knockout, and move ahead. And really now it's all up to Rahul to see if he has anything left in his 4-card hand. I don't really know if he's going to get there, but go ahead and see. He's got the boss's orders. He's got the Oricorio knockout and the reset stamp. He's going to take the hands completely away from Andrew, take the Oricorio away from the board with this Electro Power. Full Blitz, takes the knockout, accelerates energies onto his board, and now he just has to hope that Andrew can't find any energies to accelerate, take a big knockout here in return with this Blacephalon. We'll have to see if he's able to get that here. He goes ahead and promotes his Jirachi, and straight off the top, you see the Fire Crystal along with the energy retrieval. That's 5 dirty. Energies. He's going to have the knockout here on the Pikachu and Zekrom GX and put himself in a huge lead with only 1 prize card left, potentially taking Rahul out of the tournament here. And really now it's all up to Rahul. He only has 3 cards in hand, and he's trying to find something, doesn't get anything on that turn. And on the following turn, we see Andrew once again finds that Fire Crystal off the top of his deck with the welder. Doesn't even need it. He's going to go ahead and just burst GX for the win. And that is how the losers bracket finished up. We are not going to see Rahul in this tournament anymore.
Wow. What a match. That actually just shows how Blacephalon, despite losing that matchup against Pikachu and Zekrom against Pablo, still happens to have a really good matchup. We saw that innovative deck out of Rahul Reddy actually go 0-2, unfortunately for him, and he is now the second player eliminated in this tournament. This is a tournament full of absolutely great players. It's no surprise that a great player is going to get eliminated here at 0-2. But now let's take a look at the bracket, guys. Let's take a look and see what happened throughout this first day of play. We got to see all 8 players featured in this first round. We got to see Tord Reckless and Henry Brand advance at the top half of the bracket, both playing Dragapult VMAX, and then we got to see Natalia Fernandez and Pablo Meza advance at the bottom half of the bracket, playing Pikachu and Zekrom Tag Team GX. So we're seeing 2 different halves of this field. Kyle, could you tell me, is this something that you expected coming into this event?
Well, honestly, we knew that Dragapult was a great card as soon as we saw it getting released, and we didn't know how exactly it was going to be played. Does it need energy acceleration? Does it not? And right now, you see, you can honestly just do whatever you want with it. And on the other side, Pikachu and Zekrom's always been an amazing deck. It's been looking for that little extra piece to keep it relevant in the format. Bolton V is an amazing card, and we see as soon as it gets played in these decks, all these players are having a great run with it, as long as you don't make it the centerpiece of your deck with greens.
And now, Kenny, we've seen our first two players eliminated, Ross Cawthon and Rahul Reddy. What does this represent if you're both Ross or Rahul in this situation?
Well, I think both Ross and Rahul were the only players in this tournament to really bring a strange deck choice, right? Rahul's Bolton V Greens deck is something that we haven't really seen a whole lot of before, really focusing on the Bolton there. And Ross, the Spiritomb decks have existed in various forms. I know Ross has been very successful with them in these online tournaments, but you just go against the grain a little bit. You don't play the big tag team in Pikarom. You don't play the new shiny V, and I guess this is what happens. You just get punished. And both those players, amazing players in their own right, did not expect them to be the two to be eliminated this early, but someone had to go.
You're absolutely right, and that means that we only have 6 players. Between these 6 players, Jeremy, tell me, what do you expect to see as a special kind of like a highlight of action tomorrow morning?
Well, I think the main one is going to be Tord Reklev versus Henry Brand. It is a battle of the mirror match in Dragapult VMAX, and Tord's really just going the extreme consistency route. Meanwhile, Henry's kind of playing a little cards where it's like, okay, well, maybe you won't expect this. But that is going to be a really good match to highlight, especially just because there's brand new Pokemon, probably the biggest Pokemon in the set of Rebel Clash. And then meanwhile, that Pikachu and Zekrom mirror match, it's going to probably end pretty fast. That match is bada bing, bada boom, like turn 1, turn 2, turn 3. I'm going to get going. All of a sudden, game's over. But yeah, seeing the two innovative decks go out really quickly kind of hurt a little bit, but
I hate to see it.
You're right. You are absolutely right, Jeremy. Now that means that we still have 6 players remaining, guys. That is only one day of action. We still have tomorrow to go before we crown a champion here at this first invitational ever. What this tells us is plenty of news still to come. Of course, everybody at home watching, everybody that still has maybe their fan favorite left in the field, or the deck that they expect to win still left in the field, always go